your podcast, covering all things Open Division and Contenders, the path to pro for Overwatch League. And here are your hosts, Thorn Rain and Kyle Wynn. And welcome back to the Blackwatch Report for episode 21, 3 full pages of team news. That's right, we've got a busy one tonight. I'm your host, Thorn Rain, and with me as always, my co-host, Mr. Kyle Wynn. How you doing tonight, Kyle?
Fantastic. Very tired. It has been a very tiring day despite the fact that I didn't do much.
It's always the lazy days that you end up getting tired the earliest, too. It's crazy how that works out. I'm going to start off real quick, just kind of what we did this week. I played a lot of Realm Royale again. I'm looking forward to getting in and playing some Overwatch with the new LFG tools and commendations, but I think I'm saving that for the start of the next competitive season. But other than that, my Team USA Overwatch World Cup jersey came in. I'm not wearing it right now, but it's fancy. They were super cheap. There's only a couple jerseys left. Swing by the Blizzard store. There's some cool stuff over there, real cheap. How about you, Kyle? What'd you do this week?
New PUBG update with new maps and stuff that I've been playing with my friends a ton. It is super duper intense because it's way smaller, but the same amount of people. So you're like, there's nowhere to go that's safe. So it's just constant tension and stuff, which is cool. I downloaded Realm Royale, have yet to actually play it, so I'm hoping we could do like a podcast 4-stack.
Oh, definitely.
Pretty soon here, one of these next couple of days. But other than that, not a whole lot. I did a bunch of I did some streaming earlier, as well as I record like tutorial videos for sound design stuff, so that's up. So I just had a very productive morning.
Cool. Yeah, we will definitely set up a Realm Royale podcast stack before Contender starts, because once the matches start, my free time goes to the toilet. So, so moving us along, we didn't have any iTunes reviews. We didn't get any new Twitch follows or YouTube subscribes. So that's going to roll us right into the news. This week, we've got a little bit of a special announcement. We're going the way of the rest of the podcast out there. The news is going to be brought to you by our Patreon. You can become a Patreon at patreon.com/blackwatchreport. It's going to help take care of all of our custom artwork, any video work that we need done, and then it's going to all go to giveaways, so we can get really cool stuff to give out to everyone. But with that said, take us away, Kyle.
Cool. So we're going to start off in the scene news, and not scene as in the kind of music that I listened to in high school, but moving on to actual what's going on in the world of Overwatch, specifically Tier 2. First off, Australia has some news that Contender Season 2 will be hosted in the Melbourne Esports Open, or at the Melbourne Esports Open, alongside the League of Legends OPL Finals, which is kind of cool. So there's going to be lots of different games happening at that event. I think that's it for that one. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's at the Olympic Stadium Park or something like that. Some sweet place. Everywhere else has got these really cool venues. I wish we could get some of those spread out through the United States. But moving us along, some more Australian news. There was a lot of Australian news this week. Alter Ego, who was in the bottom 4, and Peeps Angels, who placed 3rd in the Open Division, both disband right before starting trials. So that's leaving out 2 empty spots for the start of trials for Australia. So the team pool was a little awkward for the Australian trials going in. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I know the trials wrapped up. We're getting ready to go into Contenders. I wanted to throw this in there because it kind of skewed their teams down there. Definitely want to try to pay a little bit more attention to Australia, especially with the expansion teams coming in. I know that they've talked about wanting to get down to like Sydney or Melbourne for, possibly having a team.
Cool. So then the next little bit is kind of a big drop here, and we heard about it, I think, yesterday or the day before, and that's EnVision has dropped their Overwatch roster and are pretty much out for good. So they're going the way of your Fanatics, your FaZes, your... God, how many different team rogues?
Denial.
Denial was a little different.
A little different, but yeah.
But yeah, and one of the interesting things is that the owner, whose name I cannot remember, they basically were kind of blaming Blizzard for a lot of it, and obviously, like, I can't say for sure whether or not Blizzard did drop the ball a bunch. They don't have the best tier 2 scene, but I mean, specifically in the last like couple of months, it has improved like a ton. But they were the only like org that has been in since quite early on the initial like season 0 of Contenders. Yep. And they were 3rd, 4th place last season. They have a phenomenal roster that looked pretty solid. Obviously not as great because of the whole big meta change issue, but like, I definitely don't think that they were going to get relegated or not make it in playoffs or whatever. And so there was kind of some salty feelings between some Overwatch fans, kind of including myself
and me.
Yeah, I think a lot of us in the Discord were kind of perturbed at the way that the owner handled it, specifically dropping the team 3 business days before Contenders starts. Leaving not only themselves to have to try to sell the spot and then blaming Blizzard for not giving them enough time or helping them sell the spot, even though it is entirely on EnVision. But also there's, I guess it's technically 5, but pretty much 6 players who are all phenomenal that are technically without a team, without anyone paying them, without any way to continue forward. And they have done nothing but like put up great results as an Overwatch team. We heard McGravy say that they're going to try to stay together, but a couple of people did have some LFT Twitter posts and stuff like that, so we don't know necessarily if that is what is exactly happening. All we know is it's kind of sucky.
Oh, 100%. Because I know when I go to sell, like, I want to sell my car. I don't blame Ford because I couldn't sell my car. I couldn't sell my car because I couldn't sell my car. He just wasn't a good businessman. Like this frustrates me so bad because it was so much fun watching that team play against Optic, Fusion University, XL2, just the whole Contenders, lineup. And then to see him throw the team away, and then on Reddit when someone says, "Well, if you can't sell it, maybe the players can just take over and still get to play." And he said that would make him even more angry at the situation.
Yeah, I think that was what did it for me.
You want to talk about the biggest scumbag move that you can do? Okay, you're unable to sell it. You can't sell it. You can't find anybody to sell it. So you're just going to let it sit and fall to a trials team because they got to fill the spot for the tournament to work. We've seen it happen before. That's how bye week got brought up into season 1.
And what did they do? What did bye week do besides like Shanghai Dragons it up and not really win anything and then kind of just lower the level of competition? That's exactly what would happen.
The same thing.
If the EnVision roster don't get in, then what's going to happen is now you have an open division. Now you've got bye week. Now you've got whatever team is below bye week.
I believe it was Second Wind.
I think no. Second Wind
Mirage.
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 Who,
yep. They got Jesus.
Didn't do that great either. Yeah, they have Jesus. He's pretty good. And they have Aether, I think, as well.
Yep.
Maybe.
Jesus and Aether.
But, like, in the grand scheme of things...
I'd rather watch old EnVision.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just kind of, like... Even if you don't get your money, you're kind of just, like, destroying the integrity of the competition at this point and making yourself look kind of like a, not nice person. Yeah. So yeah, that is our rant. I feel like we could talk about this for like the entire episode.
I'm gonna say
so much to get through.
I'm gonna say one final thing about EnVision, and then I'm gonna leave it alone until we get down to our predictions, because I'm still gonna talk about them in our predictions.
I am.
I'm making a plea, and I've already posted it on Twitter. You can find me on Thornrain, or at Thornrain on Twitter. You can find this tweet. I am petitioning Nadeshot from 100 Thieves, formerly of Optic Gaming, who now runs his own organization. He's got a League of Legends team. He just picked up a CSGO team. He's like partnered with Dan Gilbert and Quicken Loans. Pick up EnVision. Get into Overwatch. You have a team that is a solid top 4 team in Contenders. You will not be disappointed. Go out there, retweet, favorite the tweet. I will retweet it. Retweet it. I want Nadeshot to see it. Bring EnVision back under 100 Thieves. I want 100 Thieves with McGravy and Crimzo and all of them. Bring them all back. Moving along.
You could probably get a sweet deal too with a Overwatch League team and maybe do the whole academy thing.
Sign on for an academy thing. You know, the thing that the owner of EnVision couldn't do. But we're gonna move along. We're gonna stop talking about that. Our final bit of scene news is Karasuno, the number 2 team coming out of Open Division, the number 2 team coming out of Trials, is no longer Karasuno. They are now the Seattle Skyfoxes. It's a cool name. It's a super cool logo. They even went as far as making like a tracer skin to make it look official, and it's super awesome. They went all out on the rebrand, and it's phenomenal. I love what they did, and I think they're trying to weasel their way in pre-expansion teams to be someone's academy team. That's my thoughts.
The way I see it is it's kind of it's a little sad to me. Like, obviously the branding is phenomenal, but like that whole like we're like an Overwatch team, but not like that's what Copenhagen Flames did. That's what the 5 Hour Energy Detroit Renegades did, and I think there's 1 or 2 more that kind of tried to do the same thing. Obviously, Toronto's kind of separate from that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you are not an Overwatch League team. Don't try to necessarily market yourself as an Overwatch League team yet. Like, obviously, you as an org are nowhere near going to be big enough to get an Overwatch League spot. Specifically, the team as well. I don't even know if there's any, like, there might be 1 or 2 teams that, EnVision being one of them, that I feel like could maybe do okay in Overwatch League. I don't think Karasuno's on that list. Keep the Skyfoxes, drop the Seattle. Even if you're based in Seattle, even, maybe not do the tracer skin thing, because like I cannot see it ever happening, at least in this world, unless there's like 32 Overwatch League teams.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. But that's gonna wrap up the scene news. So Kyle, why don't you start us off with the roster news, the start of the massive roster news?
I got my giant wrench. I'm going to go up to the fire hydrant and pull off the toppy bit, and we're just gonna have just a flood of roster moves come in at you. Starting off, we have Mayhem Academy. Now, who is on Mayhem Academy? But, and this was, I'm quoting Zeister in here, is the best player in the world right now. So in our Twitch chat,
I'm gonna hold that to you.
We're gonna see. I am committed to this. I'm really curious as to how this is gonna go. You got Shax at DPS, Krems at Flex Tank. I think Krems was on previously. Apply, who's brought in from, I don't remember which team. But I remember there being a pretty good DPS. Paintbrush is coming back on that Lucio Mercy. And then one of the 3 players we had from the Spitfire, Hagapin, is on Flex Support, which I think is a phenomenal pickup. The dude has incredibly phenomenal moments. The only reason he was not on the main roster is because Badosin is literally the 2nd best Zen in the world, and he's on the same team. And then a player that none of us have ever heard of, Milky Man on main tank. And then this is also interesting. We finally hear where Renathera, the coach of Toronto Esports, got to. we were thinking Boston Overwatch League, but unfortunately, that's not what is happening. He is the head coach of this team. We got Reprize as assistant coach. And interesting note, they're all living at a team house or team apartments in the same complex as the regular Mayhem Academy. So they have like a full coaching meeting with both your academy and your Overwatch League team coaches. Mayhem are out of playoff contention, so they pretty much just hang on and then just, wait for World Cup stuff. But like, you have essentially a doubled staff now of support staff, which is really, really, really good to have. And I think that this team will do a lot better than we previously thought, at least than they did last season, which is not that hard.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is the first officially announced academy team that we see living in a team house with their Overwatch League team. Like, I mean, it's not a team house, but they're in the same complex. So, it's definitely interesting to see what this might, bring. Considering at the beginning of Overwatch League, Mayhem had one coach, no driver, exactly 6 players. Like, they went from the bottom of the barrel, like, support staff to now both of their teams have a giant support staff. So I'm happy with Ben Spoon right now. I really am. Moving us along, some more roster news. This is coming from across the pond. We got some EU news here. Bazooka Puppies announce an even newer roster, and they even added a GOAT. We've got KSP on DPS, Mirror on DPS, Tonic coming in as their tank with Met on Flex, Tri-Spear and Insomniac are their support line. And then they brought in 2 subs. They got Barbecue 9130 as their Flex sub. Flex sub. And then Sit, formerly Frill from the Goats, coming in as their DPS sub. And then I got Kiki Bond. I messed these up because I'm pretty sure they're not both coaches. I'm pretty sure one of them is an owner. Kiki Bond is a coach and Mojo is a coach. I think Mojo is the owner. I could have that wrong though.
It doesn't necessarily say on there. It just says that there's just a little notepad and then their name. So I think that's just support staff, just admin, support staff. Whatever. Yeah. Another one we have is Young and Beautiful announced their roster as well. This is another EU team. They have Ben Best on their main tank, Danny with 2 eyes on Flex, Gustav and Exorath on support, and then Math and Dids on DPS. I'm not super duper keen on this team yet. They'll kind of have to do a lot to impress me, I guess, just because there's not a lot of name power here.
They got an uphill battle, definitely.
Yeah, and they definitely weren't one of the best teams last season.
Yep. So going back down under to the Australian scene, we've got Kanga Esports, who were knocked out in the quarterfinals of Season 1 playoffs. They've announced their roster for Season 2 of Contenders. And we have Roro and Locus on DPS, Davi on Flex, Krona Dota on Tank. He is a new pickup. Merit on support, and then Jungle Jazz as their second support, and he is also a new pickup. The rest were from the previous incarnation of Kanga Esports. And then we've got Made, Freeburn, and Isku. Made and Freeburn or Freeberry are coaches, and Isku is their team manager.
And then back to EU, we've got Copenhagen Flames, who I just ragged on earlier. They announced their roster and the release of Marine Lord, their support. Now they have Naga and Danye as their DPS, Midnight as their Flex. I believe this was the Midnight who was previously on
XL2.
XL2, and then before that was on Rise Nation, was like one of my favorite team names. We got Chubbs on Tank, Ding, and Immortal on support.
Yes, and something I want to note here, this is the second EU team who have added NA talent to their academy teams, to the contenders teams. So we're seeing a little bit of cross-pollination across the pond. Usually we get players in NA from other regions. Now we've got NA players going over to the other regions, which is really cool. talking about a region that we typically don't get to talk about, we're going to go down to South America. Pain Gaming announced their new roster additions leading into Season 2 of Contenders. We have Killer and Leviathan on DPS, Shadow Song on tank, Murez as their backup tank, Stylo and Basti on flex, Happy and Wings on support, and then they have two substitutes. They have a substitute DPS who is Revolts, and then their substitute for support. Did I say support on the first one?
No.
Okay.
No, I think you're good.
Their substitute for support is Prodl. It's nice to see a little bit of news coming out of South America because I don't typically see anything posted about the South American scene.
Yeah. Back to EU, we have Six Snakes who have announced their roster, and it is not more than 6 players. You got Christopher on main tank, Heiko, and Asking, as well as Zapri, who I assume is DPS, Kodak, and Cave with a KHAVE on the rest of the roster. We don't have positions for these. I just basically know that Christopher and Zapri are tank and DPS.
Yeah, that was literally posted in our Discord probably 5 minutes before we went live, so I didn't have time to get all of the positions. We'll announce those next week. I will get those up. But sticking around in EU, we see Mikey A and Nesh, both DPS, signing with the British Hurricane, sending Craggy down to the reserves on the team. Again, if I'm not mistaken, Mikey A is NA.
Mikey A is a Welsh lad who was on Team UK and is going to be on Team UK forever, basically. He's like the best Tracer one trick in the world.
Oh,
that's
yep.
Only on bad teams and
not anymore. He's on the Season 1 champions.
But now Tracer's out of meta, so I don't know what you're doing. Maybe Widow one trick?
Maybe.
We're rooting for you, Mikey. We're really rooting for you, but man, you got a tough road ahead of you. But moving on, we got another addition and a movement for Optic Academy. They add Fisher, who was previously playing a bit here and there for EnVision, and this is Fisher, like one who does fishing, not Fisher the tank of gladiators. And then speaking of tanks, Kaiser, who is the notable tank player that never actually played, is off of the main roster due to the 8-player limit in Contenders.
Which I still dislike. Moving us along, we've got last night's leftovers are adding Sword as their performance coach and Silence as an analyst. It's nice to see a former Open Division team, now pretty established Contenders team. I mean, they've made it out of Trials twice. They've been in both seasons of Contenders. Starting to add support staff that you would typically see with an actual org. So good for last night's leftovers. I really am excited to see them play this season of Contenders.
Yeah, they've been really solid coming into this. I think that they're going to do better this time. I feel like they might be able to beat a couple of the Academy teams in terms of just overall rank. But moving on into a team that we have talked about here and there is Grizzlies Esports, or the Grizzlies. And again, they've had some roster swaps. Graceful, Pog, and Ding are all LFT as their contracts have expired. I think Grizzlies might need to restart. I think what Grizzlies should do is they're a team, an organization with quite a lot of good infrastructure. Well, who needs some infrastructure? Pick up EnVision. Grizzlies, please do it.
Oh wow, I didn't
Move
think
all
of that.
Them up to Montreal, and you will do infinitely better than you did last season, guaranteed. Make me their manager, please. I want a job.
That's actually a really good call there. Going back to the land of the Kangaroos, the Australian Season 1 champions, Sydney Drop Bears, have added Color Hex DPS to the roster for Season 2. Just again, we're seeing just all these moves everywhere. Man, it's a crazy week. We're 7 days out from Contenders and people are still making big moves.
Yeah, and then speaking of big moves, we have the biggest two moves here, I think, out of all of this. And that is, well, you've got quite a tank line coming into XL2. Wasn't it XL2 that was like, hey, they're really good, but their tank line's not the greatest? Well, what did they do? They heard me and said, you know what, Kyle, you're right. Let's go get the best tank line that got kicked out of the Overwatch League. And by kicked out, we mean just like dropped because, well, they were competing against a even better tank line. And that is Wuyal and Tizzy. From the London Spitfire. Tizzy, of course, never actually played the game, but Wuyal was also really, really good. Just had to face off against Free, who's slightly better. Tizzy, I'm sorry, bud, there was no way you were ever going to get time against Gesture, but that does not necessarily mean you're anything less than a phenomenal tank. So I think XL2 might have all of the pieces together now to start going ham and start getting the wins and start, like, doing the things that we think that they are capable of doing instead of letting us down like last season.
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit more about XL2 in my power rankings because I think I might have them a little bit lower than most people. But to wrap us up, our final bit of news here, we're finally done with the news. Team Giganti announced addition of Shader 2K, replacing Nil. So it's good to see Shader is still out there in the scene, and I can't wait to watch him on Giganti. That I'm gonna start watching EU. I'm gonna try my hardest. I promise. But with that, that's gonna wrap up the news. And as always, we finish the news with a sponsor. You can break away from your normal energy and go rogue. Go to therogueenergy.com and use promo code BlackwatchReport at checkout for 10% off of your order. That is good on everything from shirts, drink mixes, and shakers. Go check them out. So, this is where we're going to introduce our new segment. The new segment is This Week in Overwatch, brought to you by Liquipedia. So
they're not an actual sponsor, but they should sponsor us.
Yeah, they're not actual sponsors yet because I'm gonna keep bugging them. I've been talking to them on Twitter. But basically, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna run down the events that happened in the past during this week of Overwatch, and then anybody that had birthdays this week, we're gonna give them a fat birthday shout out. So, starting off on the 24th, we had the Overwatch Premier Series 2017 Spring, and that was won by 1246. And Rectful turned 25 on the 24th. He was the assistant coach for T1W Esports Club. On the 25th, Lil Bao, Flex Tank for Eagle Gaming, turned 23. On the 26th, Operation Breakout and the OG Invitational were both won on the same day by Team EnVision. You know, the Dallas Fuel that didn't make any playoffs. Well, they made one stage.
Won 2 tournaments in a day.
Won 2 tournaments in a day. Both of those were on the 26th, 2016. And then we have the birthday of Nesh. He turned 22. He is a DPS for the British Hurricane, and everyone's favorite dragon, Gaguri, turned 19. Flex Tank, Shanghai Dragons. On the 27th, we have 3 birthdays. We have Bao, Caps Lock, and Melee. Bao is currently retired, and then Caps Lock and Melee are both free agents right now, looking for teams. Check them out. On the 28th, none other than your favorite caster, who got the most heat for signing with the Overwatch League, Semler, turns 29. And then on the 30th, Coffee, age 24, currently retired, former tank of that mean team EnVision, turns 24. And that is This Week in Overwatch. So Kyle, start us off on the quick play.
So we had Contenders Trials finish up, and we now know what is happening for our next season of Contenders. We had LNL, unsurprisingly, come away with the #1 spot with a 6-1 record plus 14 map differential. Karasuno in at number 2 again, 6-1 as well, but this with a plus 10 map differential. Bye-week and second win coming in at 3rd and 4th, respectively, with 4 and 3 both. However, bye week had a positive map differential of +3, and then I guess it's because there were draws or something. How there's they have a negative map differential,
Yep.
but they are at -2. His second win. And rounding out or go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. For the matches of last week, reviewing it real quick. Second wind, I keep wanting to call him Southwind. Took out Bioweek 3-1. Karasuno beat LNL 3-1. Mirage beat Grizzlies 3-0. Second wind beat Goats 2-0. Karasuno beat Eminent a strong 4-0, as well as Bioweek 4-0ing Grizzlies. To round off the 4-0s, LNL beat Mirage 4-0, and then Eminent beat Grizzlies 3-2. Or Grizzlies, Goats, different animals, both not in contenders anymore. Mirage, Esport, Electronic, Eminent, Grizzlies, and Goats are all out, back to the world of Open Division.
And then with that, we're going to go over just what these teams won out of trials. We had last night's leftovers taking the top spot with 21 wins, 7 losses, netting $2,142. Karasuno coming in second, 19 wins, 9 losses, $2,066. Bye week taking 15 wins, 1 draw, 12 losses, $1,933. We got second win coming in fourth with 12 wins, 2 draws, 14 losses, getting them $1,838. Mirage Sport Electronique, I love that name. 12 wins, 1 draw, 15 losses, $1,819 to split amongst themselves. And then Goats coming in, sixth, with 11 wins, 3 draws, 14 losses, also getting $1,819. Eminent with 10 wins, 1 draw, 17 losses, $1,743. And Grizzlies Esports rounding out all of trials with a measly 7 wins, 2 draws, 19 losses, getting them $1,648 for their team.
And then we cover the EU and Korean regions whenever we can, because obviously there's lots of great stuff happening there, but we can't watch all the matches. So we have for EU, Six Snakes. We have an org, 1 Point, and Bazooka Puppies making it out of trials with That's a Disband, Team Singularity, Samsung, Morning Stars, Blue, and Northern Lights getting relegated back to Open Division. And then in Korea, Blossom, MVP Space, GC Busan Wave, and World Game Star H2. I want to call it World Star, but it's not. Making it into contenders, whereas Medathena, who was the team that bolstered their roster with a bunch of names in people. Reprize, Selly, bunch of additions, didn't even make it. They're going back to Open Division with Armament, Freaka Gaming, whatever, can't tell, and BM Hawk.
Yep.
So kind of a upset there, I think.
With the amount of moves Medathena made, I think that's the biggest shocker out of Contenders Korea.
You know what the best thing is, though? If you open up Liquipedia and look at the player roster, there's 7 players there. But then if you scroll down to former players, there is legit 28 people on this list of former Medathena players.
Oh yeah, Meta Gaming is insane with how many people have played for them. It's nuts.
Yeah. I think I played for Medathena Gaming at one point too.
There's a very good chance that I did. I mean, and I'm only gold, so I mean.
That's fair.
But that's gonna move us right along into our main discussion, and I have a feeling, just a small feeling, that this is the last time you're ever gonna hear us actually talk about the Goats as a team. Just saying. So we're going to go into the Goats legacy. I'm going to start it off real quick with the legacy starting all the way back when they were Fractal Esports. Fractal Esports went undefeated in the Season 1 of Open Division. Went into Trials, and right at the start of Trials, caught bans. Kaluge was banned for, I believe it was toxicity, and then they were unable to secure the amount of wins they needed to get out of trials. That's where we saw LNL take first, and then bye week sneak into Contenders Trials because a spot opened up, because it was only supposed to be one team out of Open Division, but it ended up being two, because who was it? FaZe Clan forgot they had an Overwatch League team, or I'm sorry, an Overwatch team, and didn't sell their spot. So Kyle, take us into this next part.
So one of the things that we know is that, I forget who was it announced, but basically it said that they were going to break up unless they were picked up by an org, and that is pretty much not happening at this point. They did not make it out of trials. They had the least amount of wins, despite being the team that was literally like the upsetters of every tournament, both the beat and the pit. And I feel like it's weird that we talk about this team so much because, like, if you look at it right now, if you this is the first time listening to the show and you hear us talking about these GOATS people who kind of just got rolled in trials, which is not like even that big. It's, this is where you separate the tier 3 from the tier 2. But this was a team that 3 weeks ago, they were probably good enough to beat, like, 2 or 3 Overwatch League teams, based just purely on the fact that they figured out how to play quad tank or triple tank Brigitte better than anyone else, and that they changed the way that people play. They changed, in the same way that Selfless, who was also a meta dependent team, right? Remember when Selfless was absolutely incredible, when Tracer, Soldier, Roadhog, Reinhardt were all the most incredible heroes to run, and that team was, the best at that. They had their fair share of controversy as well. Now the GOATS is kind of the second coming of this team, essentially, in that they have their own very meta-dependent style, but they completely changed the way that people played. They had their own comp. They played it a very unique way in that, you dive with a Reinhardt and then play incredibly well, together. But again, similar to Defran getting banned, well, now you have half the team getting banned, including their main tank, who was the primary initiator. And when that happened, we saw XQC, who we know is a good tank. He was an Overwatch League quality tank that got kind of put in a weird situation with this whole GOATS thing and didn't look that great because Gator, who was their main tank, got banned.
And I mean, like you said, we know XQC he's a great tank. If you watch his stream, he's insane. But when you plug somebody in, we saw this with NRG at the end of season 1 after they lost Damon. The synergy isn't there. It doesn't matter.
It takes a while.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good the player is. If you don't know exactly when your other tanks are going to initiate, or where they're going to initiate, what angle they're going to take, and you take a different... If you change one little thing there, that whole comp falls apart. And we saw it. We saw it fall apart. Literally, as NanoBoost in the chat says, Fusion University never beat the GOATS. We're talking about the team that just stomped through Contenders. Stomped every tournament that they played before Contenders started. And they could not beat the GOATS. Couldn't. And then the GOATS come into trials, and it's just like what happened with season 1 in the first trials they went into. They got banned, and then their whole team synergy just falls apart. And like we said, Sit was one of the ones that said if the whole team didn't get picked up by an org, that they were going to disband. And now Sit is signed to Bazooka Puppies. Gator is suspended all the way through the next season of Contenders. We don't know where the rest of the team is going to end up. From my understanding, Kaluj just kind of disappeared at one point. So he's talking about not even playing Overwatch anymore and going to, Black Ops 4. So the goats are dead. Just dead.
It's like back in the old days when you'd sacrifice a goat to the gods in order for some amount of reward. Our reward was a brand new meta and a new way to play, and all it took was, a bunch of people to get banned and a whole team to live and die in the course of like 2 months.
Yeah, the hottest thing, they're getting called out live on Overwatch League. They had a comp named after them on, I believe it was Bren that said, they're running the GOATS comp. You never heard anybody talk about contenders in Overwatch League. That was the first time we've ever heard it. And now, like dust in the wind, they're gone.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to wrap up the GOATS legacy, and more than likely, we're never going to talk about them again, unless we're talking about individual players, but we're just not going to talk about the team anymore because I don't think they're coming back. That's going to move us down into the speculation station, which is going to be our power rankings before we see anybody play anything, what we think is going to happen for Season 2 of Contenders. So, Kyle, what is your rankings for Season 2?
Cool. So I'm going to go 12-1, even though I wrote them 1-12, because it's better for the hype. Starting off at 12, you're going to be super surprised when I tell you that I don't think Bioweek is going to get another win again. They're probably going to get a map here and there, but I think that they were the team that had Sugar Free on them, and that was like the hard carry. And now he's gone. And the same with Dogman, and he's gone as well. He's on a better team. So Bioweek, I put at number 12. 11 is Second Wind. I don't know a ton about this team, but I think they're slightly better than Bioweek. Next is at number 10 spot is the Seattle Skyfoxes, another team that I think that most of these particular teams are going to be kind of in this realm. Most of the trials teams are probably not going to get too far up, except for LNL, who I'll talk about in a minute. Next is Optic Academy at number 9. I don't know. They were good, but they were mostly great because they had Sharp, who was the best tracer. And now that Tracer's out, they're going to have to kind of play more creatively. And I think that that's going to hurt them a little bit. Number 8 is EnVision ? If the roster is still together and then they can get their spot, I think that they are a number 8 team just because I haven't seen them in a little while. I don't know how good they're going to be. Especially now that you don't have an org behind you. That's kind of, Number 7, and I probably kind of want to put them a little higher, but I think number 7 is a good place for them because they do have a lot of really good name power, but they're a pretty new in terms of a lot of the members haven't played too long with each other. It's Mayhem Academy. I think that the fact that they have a lot of new good players, not just one, as well as the fact that they're going to have quite a lot of support staff, a lot of good coaching and analysis behind them is going to help them a lot. Number 6, no longer number 1, is Fusion University. Meta hits hard, yo. And Genji Tracer, who is all Who Are You played previously, is now pretty much out. And now Who Are You is pretty much a Pharah one-trick, and he is good at Pharah, but he's not like he is at Genji or Tracer. And so that's going to hurt them quite a bit here. Next is Gladiators Legion, who I really hope pick up Tailspin. I think that's what's going to happen. I feel like we're both kind of on the same page with that. I think that they have a pretty good team, pretty good tank line, pretty good support duos. LNL is my number 4 team. I think that they have been looking really, really solid. One of the teams to kind of pick up on the new meta pretty well. A lot of really good pickups for them. A lot of good momentum as well, which is pretty strong. Number 3, Toronto Esports. They were always really good. They're going to always be really good. Dalton is probably grinding something other than Tracer now. He was a really good Widow, though, so I think that with him and Nero, who is pretty much the jack of all trades, I feel like they should be able to figure out what to do. The only downside is they don't have a head coach anymore. So good luck, guys. I think you'll need to fill that spot soon. We know a coach who could probably, I don't know if he's got a coaching gig lined up yet, but, Chu is no longer with EnVision, so hintity hint hint, Toronto Esports. We know people at Toronto Esports. I don't know why we can't just text them that.
I'll say I can hit them up in Discord after this.
Exactly. Number 2 has a 2 in their name, and so it's meant to be as XL2. I'm not going to give them the number 1 spot again. I'm not going to make that mistake again, but I do think that their main issue last time was their tank line. And now they have a really, really good tank line. I think they also have a really good DPS duo. And I don't know where Mangachu is going to be in this lineup. I think that he's going to get a bit more playtime now that, Hanzo's like god tier.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's going to be the one consistent member. I think that they needed to figure out how their DPS is going to go. And so if they can figure out how they're doing that compared with their like pretty good support line is going to probably give them a really good results here. And then to no one's surprise is the number 1 team who added another player, even though they didn't need one, but it only makes them better. Possibly. Watch that come back to bite me. Is
it
NRG.
Bit a couple other teams.
That is fair. You have 6 great people, you add a 7th and he destroys you. But NRG has always been looking phenomenal. Stratus is a really, 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 really good far. Poise is no longer this player who's like out of sync with the rest of the team and doesn't know where his team is and is just kind of straight feeding. Now he's like destroying everyone on Widowmaker. If like just them, this team on Lijiang Tower is one of the coolest things to see. I think that they're just going to ride not only the momentum and the pickups that they have as well, and I think they're going to get that number 1 spot. What do you got?
All right. So, to nobody's shock, I got bye week at 12. I don't agree with Kyle. I think that they'll get 1, maybe 2 wins. We will see them in the win column this season of Contenders. They're slow starters. It's going to take them like 4 or 5 seasons to like not get relegated. That's what I'm just going to tell myself. I'm following that up by second wind, pretty much the exact same. A lot of the points that Kyle brought up are the same points that I'm going to have, so I'm not going to reiterate them. But, second wind, I almost said second week. Pretty much they're right there with bye week. Like if bye week had a sister team, it would be second wind. And then I've got not 1, but 2 academy teams falling to relegation. I'm sorry, Zeister, but at number 10, I've got Mayhem Academy. I just don't know if they had the time to gel as a team. And we've seen what happens when you have good players that don't actually gel with the rest of the team. They don't produce. It would take a lot of hard carry to get them out of that 10 spot for me. Number 9, I've got Optic Academy. They looked good in season 1. They were able to not get relegated. But my thing is I think that the rest of the teams are just that much better than Optic Academy. Now, if EnVision Esports comes back, well, no, not if EnVision comes back. If the gang, I'm going to call them the gang from here on out, if the gang gets their spot, I put them at 8 only because when I did this, we didn't know if Jaru was playing. If Jaru was playing, I would move them up to my number 5 and everybody would fall down one. But right now, they would be number 8 without Jaru, because the Buds Jaru combo is literally the most insane DPS combo in Contenders. It's magic to watch.
With so many different looks too. Like they're not like we run Genji, the other one runs Tracer. It's like we can play everything better than you can.
Yeah, and if they need to play something weird where, it's like just an unknown combo of DPS, these two can do it because they literally know where the other guy's going to be, and they rely on the other player to handle that, whatever they're doing. And they know they just have the confidence to rely on each other.
Except Bloods Brigida. That's the only option that I don't think they can run. Other than that,
the guy walks off the cliff on Junkertown one time.
And it does nothing a bunch of other times, man.
All right, yeah, I'll give you that. All right, but moving along, I've got Seattle Man, I almost said Seafoxes. They should have went with Seafoxes. It sounds better. The Seattle Skyfoxes, coming in at number 7. Karasuno looked good. They held their own. They maintained number 2. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll be forever number 2 in trials. Wouldn't be the first team that was a forever 2. But in the state that EnVision is, I think that they would be better than them without Gyro. I got to emphasize that. And then, like Kyle said, when the meta swings, it hits really hard. And Fusion got knocked out. I'm sorry. I love the guys up in Fusion University. Elk, you were a great interview. I love talking to you. But unless you guys figure something out with the way the new meta is played, you guys are going to have a rough season. Real rough season. I got Gladiators coming in at number 5. Pretty much me and Kyle felt the same from here on out, except for one key thing. I've got LNL also at number 4. They're just looking phenomenal. They've got the team dynamic down, and they're gonna go deep into contenders. But this is where I change things up a little bit. I'm putting XL2 at number 3, only because if they're still playing Nene from Korea, you're gonna have problems. If
Nano says they're not, though, so I don't know.
Is everyone in NA?
He doesn't. Nano does not know about. Nano assumes that Tizzy and Wu y'all are. He says yes, but I don't know for certain. I can't confirm that. We need a contact at XL2 because I feel like they're the team that has the most questions that I want to know answers to.
Well, I think we just figured out the next team I'm going to contact. I'll work on it. I'll see if I can get us an in over at XL2. But until I know for sure that their whole team is playing on NA, I can't put them any higher than 3rd. And I'm being kind of generous because
that's fair.
The ping destroyed them in season 1. It destroyed them. That was their downfall. I've got Toronto Esports at number 2. Again, you have a whole team as long as it's the same roster. And there's no major changes. We haven't heard Toronto's roster yet. The guys all know exactly what everybody's doing. They have all their plays down. They know inside and out how they want to attack, how they want to defend, where their supports are going to be. They actually peel for their supports. Toronto's going to take number 2 again. Sorry, Tui, but you're number 2 again. And I mean, I got to go with NRG. NRG taking number 1, man. Like, they looked phenomenal in the beat. They looked because it went beat then pit. They won the pit. Absolutely dominating in the pit. The only reason that they didn't do as good as they should have in season 1 was Damien got picked up. And then they literally had to plug somebody in that they didn't know exactly how they could play with them. Poise is just doing amazing things on every tune that he plays, and I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. So NRG is going to take number 1. We will revisit these at the end of the season and see exactly how wrong we were. Because last time we were pretty wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got a feeling we have a better grasp on a lot of the teams this time.
Yeah, I think definitely.
I think that we will be a little bit closer this time. So that's going to take us into the week 1 matches. Kyle, why don't you grab day 1, July 3rd?
So on July 3rd, we're going to see Fusion University go against Second Wind. I have this going Fusion University's way, 3-1. You have it going slightly more dominant in FU's way of 4-0. We don't know how well this is going to go, but we think that just as a team, FU are the better team. Moving on to the next game is Optic Academy versus LNL. We both have LNL taking this, but in a very close 3-2.
Yes.
We don't think that they're necessarily like we're keen on them because they did really well in trials, but we're still, we're keeping it.
Give them that buffer.
Yeah, exactly. Next, last match for July 3rd is Gladiators Legion versus Mayhem Academy. I went something else, but I switched it once I kind of remembered who was on Mayhem Academy. I think it'll take them a week or two to maybe get really, really, really good to get like to that number 7 spot. But I think I think Gladiators Legion do take this 3-2, and you have that the same as well.
Yes. And then on July 5th, which we never brought up, they are changing the schedule because none of this season of Contenders is being played during Overwatch League. So now matches will be Tuesday, Thursdays instead of Sunday, Tuesdays. So on July 5th, we have XL2 versus NRG. Kyle has NRG taking this 3-1. I have NRG taking it 3-2. I think this one's going to go the distance, and it should be pretty interesting. And then our next matchup, we've got Skyfoxes versus McGravy Train.
Yeah,
that could be a good name.
Because I'm trying to think of a name other than EnVision, and you said the gang. I'm like, what about like the McGravy Train? That is the best name. So if this team stays together and they get the spot, I'm going to dub them this. And if they don't name themselves this, I will send a lot of very angry emails and Twitter DMs to McGravy himself.
But as of right now, Kyle has Skyfoxes, I guess. And
yeah,
I agree.
We don't know what's happening with this match. It could be anyone in that spot, but until we know,
we literally could have one team gets a bye week every week. Well,
we have bye week and a bye week.
Yeah, we have bye week and a bye week. And then speaking of bye week, the final matchup is Toronto Esports versus bye week. And no shocker here, me and Kyle 100% agree. I'm sorry, Shoy, but you need to hit your shatters, because if not, you're getting 4-0'd by Toronto Esports. It's just going to happen. Me and Kyle both agree on that. That one will be interesting just to see how far bye week has come from last Contenders. Because they did great in trials. They did good in trial season 1, and then they completely bombed in Contenders. Hopefully it's not the same here, and we can actually see them in the win column. But that is going to wrap it up. We have no community intel this week. We will work on something for next week for that. Kyle, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at Twitter at Kyle the Winner. On Twitch, I stream pretty much exclusively PUBG and Jurassic World Evolution now.
The game looks so cool.
Those, it is so fun. I've had 16 hours in it in the last week, basically, and it is a joy. I will probably end up streaming the podcast host Realm Royale thing as I learn how to play the game, which will be cool. But yeah, Kyle the Winner on Twitter and Twitch.
And you can find me on Twitter at ThornRain. You can find me on Twitch also at ThornRain, but I do most of my streaming over at the Blackwatch Report Twitch channel because we do need those viewers. We are just viewers off of becoming affiliates. Speaking of Twitch, if you are an audio listener, go ahead, swing by the Twitch, hit that follow button, stop by the show sometime, give us a watch. You might enjoy looking at us. I doubt it, but
speak for yourself, man.
It's always a good time because we do keep an eye on Twitch chat, so you might get talked about on the show live if you're in Twitch chat chatting with us and bringing up good points like Zester and Nano Boost were doing tonight. Thank you, gentlemen.
The real MVPs.
Yes. And then over on the iTunes, we need those iTunes reviews. The more reviews, whether they're good or bad, it helps with viewability on iTunes. The more stars you got, the higher you are up when somebody searches Overwatch. So any review, 1 star, 5 star, if you want to tell me I'm ugly, if you want to tell me that this is the greatest tier 2 podcast you've ever listened to, wink, wink. We will read your reviews live on the show. And then one final plug for the Patreon. You can swing by the Patreon. We've got 3 tiers over there. All of them come with special rewards that'll get you put on the Twitch channel. We'll get you read on, get you shout out on the show. And if you do the highest tier, you could have a chance to be the official sponsor of the news one week. So swing by the Patreon. Just check it out. But other than that, you can find the show on Twitter at Blackwatch Report, no Owen Report. You can email the show, blackwatchreport@gmail.com, and you can follow the show on Twitch at twitch.tv/blackwatchreport. We record live Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Our intro music is the main theme song, covered by our very own Kyle Wynn. This has been a High Noon production. You can find all of our shows at highnoonpodcast.com, and you can come and chat with all of the hosts from all of the shows over at the Discord at discord.me/highnoonpodcast. And with that, Blackwatch out.